On the level of Zootopia and Toy Story, Hoppers is premiering with almost perfect ratings. One of the best animated movies of the last few years. All that is pure exaggeration. The reality is completely different from what people are saying. I mean, yeah, it's a nice movie. It has some good ideas, and there are several things that work really well. But let's not pretend we're looking at the eighth wonder of the world here. So, is Hoppers actually as good as everyone says it is? Well, in this video we're gonna look at exactly what Hoppers did right, what parts feel really strange, and whether it's actually worth going to see. And yes, this video will contain a few spoilers, but nothing that ruins the movie. First things first, what the hell even is Hoppers? Basically, the story follows a college student obsessed with animals, who ends up transferring her consciousness into the body of a robotic beaver. Yeah, that's the level of insanity we're dealing with here, just so you're mentally prepared. The idea is that they're doing it to better understand animals, and a bunch of things they barely even explore in the movie. Anyway, let's start with everything that doesn't work in this film. And trust me, there's a lot! This movie clearly has a very nice message and genuinely good intentions. But the problem is that in order to deliver that message, they ended up telling a very strange story. Pixar's idea was to raise awareness about the environment while also doing something innovative with their concept. On paper, that sounds great. What I don't understand is why the final movie feels like they were rushing the entire thing. Because the end result is a complete mess of ideas thrown together. And one of the clearest examples of that is the characters. The standout characters in this movie are definitely the animals. The humans, including the main girl, are really hard to connect with. She just doesn't have that charm you usually expect from a Pixar protagonist. She kinda looks like Hiro Hadama from Big Hero 6. But overall, there's nothing particularly interesting about her. They don't tell us her story, they don't show us her relationship with her parents, they don't even explain why she's so weird in the first place. She just exists in the movie, and that's it. Now, compare that with Turning Red. May, the main character, has way more personality. She's funny, expressive, and you instantly think, okay, this kid is interesting. In Hoppers, the protagonist leaves a lot to be desired. And because of that, the character feels pretty flat. Which is probably why once she turns into a beaver, she suddenly feels way more alive as a character. Honestly, if she has just been the beaver from the very beginning, the audience would have connected with her so much faster. But as it stands, I really don't see this character becoming one of those Pixar characters people remember for years. But the animals? I remember them because of what they did, the jokes they made, the lessons they shared, and the friendships they built. But well, if the protagonist already disappointed you, well, it gets worse. Because the rest of the humans are a complete failure. Like a joke that nobody bothered finishing. The mayor, the doctor and her team of losers, the townspeople, even Mabel's mom, none of them have even a tiny bit of charm as characters. There are multiple moments where they're genuinely unbearable. You're having a great time watching the animals, and suddenly the movie cuts back to the humans and completely kills the scene. Their characters feel so simple and insignificant that the story honestly would have been so much better without them. Yeah, I said it. And anyone who's already seen the movie probably thought the exact same thing. The only two humans that actually work in this film are the two grandparents. First, Mabel's grandma. Because at least you connect with her a little bit. She's not the cutest grandma in the world, but at least she's not as wrinkled and toasted as Mama Coco. And the other grandpa? He's basically an NPC. And somehow he still has more personality than every other human in the movie combined. And the mayor, honestly, we're not even gonna get into him. Because you could make an entire video about how detestable and stupid that guy is. And I almost forgot something that makes all of them even worse. The forced, unnecessary jokes. Now, That doesn't mean the movie's packed with jokes the entire time, like some kind of animated comedy. But the problem is that there are a few moments where you just sit there thinking, dude, was your dumb joke really that necessary? In some scenes it actually feels uncomfortable, just because of how absurd it sounds, or how awkward the moment looks on the screen. But let me clarify something. This only happens with the humans, because the jokes with the animals, those are a solid 10 out of 10. But now we need to talk about what didn't work with the story. The movie actually starts off pretty interesting. It introduces Mabel and her problem and her temporary solution. But after that, the whole thing turns into a complete mess. We start with a very simple story, and suddenly it becomes way more complicated, dramatic, and exaggerated than it ever needed to be. To the point where a lot of things that happen just feel ridiculous. Seriously, the entire conflict of the movie, the massive problem this girl causes, could have been solved in less than 5 minutes. If she had just made a formal request to the idiot Major, that's it. There was absolutely no reason for things to escalate to the point where she almost wipes out all the animals and the humans in her entire town. And the story becomes so messy that the movie barely even has a proper villain. At first it looks like the Major is the villain, because he's planning to destroy the forest. But then it turns out the girl is the one acting on a selfish impulse. So, wait, the Major wasn't actually the bad guy? What happened here? Now I'm confused. The funniest part is that it feels like they realized the movie didn't have a villain, so they just shoved one in there at the last second so the story wouldn't feel empty. Seriously, it almost feels like ChatGPT wrote it. Like they finished the movie and suddenly went, oh wait, we forgot the villain. And I'm not even joking. Right when the movie is about to end, they suddenly pull a villain out of nowhere. Brother, that is straight up absurd. I honestly don't know if Pixar just didn't have enough time to finish this movie, or what exactly went wrong. Because there are so many things that never got resolved. They never explained what actually happened with certain parts of the story. The movie just ends. And that's it. Hasta la vista, baby! Another thing that's missing is one of the most important elements Pixar movies usually have. Their unforgettable music. Before the movie even started, they played the trailer for Toy Story 5. And the moment that song starts playing, you instantly think, oh my god, they're about to show bald Woody. And somehow, I'm getting older every year. But in Hoppers, nothing. There's no soundtrack that pulls you in. No music that makes you feel like you're inside some giant cinematic orchestra. The only songs in the entire movie happen when King George makes everyone dance during his meeting, and later at his party. And that's it. And those songs aren't even cool. They're literally playing from an old tape recorder. It feels like someone just searched copyright-free dance music on YouTube and hit play. That's how bland it feels. And a lot of people compare the movie to Avatar, because the main character enters the body of a beaver to experience life from that species' perspective. Others compared it to Brother Bear, for obvious reasons, just without magic involved. And sure, that basic idea is there. In fact, the trailer even joked about how it's not Avatar, but in reality, it has absolutely nothing to do with those movies. This is something completely different. Pixar even said they took inspiration from certain elements of Avatar and from the Planet Earth documentaries. But honestly, the only documentary inspiration in the movie is a couple of failed shots of the doctor trying to study the beavers. And that's it. That's the big inspiration. But hey, it's not all bad news. Thank goodness the movie actually has several really good things that stop it from being a complete disaster. Because if it didn't have these, this movie honestly would have been a mess. And the good parts are strong enough that you'll see why the movie is still worth watching at least once. First of all, the entire animal side of the story. They are so funny! You also get curious about how their world works, and some of their sarcastic moments genuinely make you laugh. I clearly remember the scene where the animals start talking to Mabel. It was so epic! And I'm not gonna lie, the beginning of the movie was starting to frustrate me. But the moment the animal scene started, I thought, okay, the wait was worth it. Then the movie introduces some interesting ideas, like the rules inside the animal kingdom, the problems caused by human construction, and how the animals adapted to all of it despite the overpopulation they were dealing with. That part is genuinely interesting. But the character that absolutely stole everyone's heart was King George. That beaver is an absolute legend. And wait, I just realized something kind of dumb. The beaver literally has more backstory than the actual main character, which probably explains why so many people loved King George and completely forgot about Mabel. Well, that's pretty disappointing. Anyway, the animals that eventually become allies with Beaver Mabel have a lot of personality and charm. They feel like real friends. And honestly, they deliver way more meaningful lessons than the human characters ever do. Now, here's something a lot of people were probably worried about before seeing the movie. There's no forced inclusion. For once, Disney didn't try to shove a bunch of forced political messaging into the story. They just focus on telling a great movie. So, if that's something you were worried about, relax. None of that stuff shows up here. Overall, the message of the movie is actually really nice. It makes you think about the damage humans cause to animals and their habitats, and it definitely raises some awareness about that. Even the ending is pretty emotional and memorable. And the animation deserves credit too. It has that cartoonish style that gives the movie its own identity. It feels so fresh. At times, it even feels like you're actually inside the forest. And there's something else worth mentioning. This movie might have been saved by bringing in the creator of We Bare Bears, Daniel Chang. That guy already had a lot of experience telling stories from the perspective of animals. And you can definitely see that influence in the movie. So honestly, credit where credit is due. Daniel Chang probably saved Hoppers from being a total catastrophe. So, in the end, is it worth watching or not? Well, it depends on your situation. If you just want to go to the theater and watch a movie that won't completely disappoint you, then yeah, it's a decent movie to sit down, enjoy, and kill some time. If you're going with kids and you want them to have a good time, it could work. Most of the kids in the theater I was in didn't seem that excited about the movie. The only thing I kept hearing them talk about was the grandparents. Literally, they were like, "Is that our grandma? Look, that's my grandma. Look, that's the grandpa." And that was pretty much it. For the rest of the movie, they were talking about random stuff and getting distracted during certain parts. Well, would I watch Hoppers again someday? Probably not, but I also don't regret watching it. If you ask someone who's already seen Hoppers whether they'd rather watch it again or rewatch The Lightning McQueen, I've bet everything they'd pick Lightning McQueen. So yeah. If you just want to go to the movies, relax for a while, maybe tear up a little because of Mabel's grandma and a couple of the animals, Hoppers will do the job. Oh, and in case you were wondering, no, there are no capybaras in the movie.